31st is around the corner. What are we doing? Because I still ain't got no job. Hey y'all. Hey, so I know that I have been missing for about, I don't even know. The last time I posted on my channel was like 2 months ago, or probably 3. I don't even know, but I just want to say, hey, I'm back, and I just wanted to share like a full, in-depth, detailed video on how I moved to Texas, why I moved to Texas, and all of that good stuff. God really did a thing in my life, and I feel like sharing it with you guys. Well, not feel like, it's called by the Lord for me to share what He has done in my life. So without further ado, stay tuned for that. So where do we even start? I don't even know where to start, because my story and my journey is not like everybody else's that I have watched. I've watched many testimonies of people moving to Texas, God literally moving people to Texas, but my journey sounds nothing like that. So yeah, where do I even start? First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for all 54 of you subscribers that subscribe to my channel. It's very much appreciated, and I love you guys so much. But let's get straight into how God moved me to Texas, because it's still unbelievable. I still can't believe that I'm here miles and miles and miles away from my family. It's just an uncomfortable space. I have really been in an uncomfortable space doing things that I have never thought I would do in my life. But I'm here, and I'm super happy that I made the choice to be here, because it has definitely put me in a position where I have to be uncomfortable with my circumstances in order for me to reach the fullest potential that I need to meet, and to be able to walk out the purpose that God has for me. So yeah. So I can go far as back to 2 years. 2 years ago, I decided to up and leave my kid's father because we were not seeing eye to eye. We separated, and more other details that I'm leaving out, but I ended up leaving, and I moved back into my mom's house at this time in my life, in a season of my life, because I just could not take what was going on in the household with my kid's father. So for my sanity's sake, I said, okay, I have to do what I have to do and leave. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the story of Job, but it reminds me, my situation definitely reminds me so much of the story of Job, because everything was literally ripped from Job, like everything. And God knew that Job would still serve him. I always say this in every video. If you go back to my other videos and watch, I always talk about the fact that Job was like tested by God if he would still be faithful, which God already knew, because He knows the beginning and the ending of our stories, and He knows if we're gonna serve Him. He knows if you're chosen, you're chosen. So whatever you go through, you're gonna always surrender and fall on your knees to God regardless of the situation. That's just how it is. And for Job, he knew that Job would come falling on his knees to Him and still worshiping Him, even though he was losing everything. He lost his family, he lost his material possessions, his money, his beauty, everything. And I really could relate to that story at this time in my life. So, because I lost everything, y'all. So when I went back to my mother's house, y'all, I was literally pregnant with my daughter. I had been like 6 months when I left. And my son at the time, he was 3 years old. So me and my son were sleeping on a pull-out couch, which was crazy. Like, that was really a rough season, a rough time in my life, because I just felt like a failure. I felt like I was just like failing at life. I was going backwards. I'm like, I shouldn't be going backwards. I should be going forward. There's no way I'm going backwards in life and I'm going back to my mother's house. So I felt a lot of shame and guilt behind that. And the fact that I didn't want people telling me, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. But I had to put my pride to the side and just be humble and go back to not what was familiar, but in order for me to feel uncomfortable with the circumstances that I had. And I think that's what God was really trying to do, make me uncomfortable to the point where I had to lean on him. And so that's exactly what happened. Like, I was so uncomfortable in that environment that I was in the season of my life that I was in, that I had to call on God and ask him, what do you want me to do? Because clearly what I'm doing is not working out. So once I started to really like seek God, pray and fast, that's when he started to reveal little by little what it is that I was supposed to be doing. He started to put this irritation in my spirit, y'all. I was so irritated, like irritated to the point where I'm like, okay, I gotta get the going, because where I'm at, I can't do it. And I'm not even only talking about my environment. I meant like as far as like the state was just like giving me so much irritation. I was just so irritated with just being in New York City, like so irritated. I just was thinking in my head, like, I can't raise my children here. It's too fast paced. It's too much money to live here. I can't do it. So that's when I had went into prayer, and I'm like, God, all right, where do you want me to move? Because clearly me being here is not working out. I can't do this. The type of person that I am, I'm very like chill. I like to stay in the house. I don't like fast environments. And I don't even understand how I grew up in New York City, because I am someone who likes slow environment. I like everything to be running slowly. And in New York, if you are from New York, you know that everything is fast paced. Like, it's a state that never sleeps. So another thing that played a part in me wanting to move was the fact that I felt like it was too much pressure on me. Not saying that I would have fell into that pressure, but I felt like I had to live up to this certain standard in New York. Like, if you're from New York, you know. If you know, you know. Everybody drip down, dress fly, all that good stuff. And for me, I'm like, I just felt so much pressure. Like, don't get me wrong, but I really love to dress. Like, that fashion is like one of my passions. Like, I love to dress up, down, whatever the case may be. And I like to dress my kids too, but New York will have you feeling like you broke. Even when you're not broke. These kids be having Versace, Gucci, Louis, Off-White, like, and I just be like, nah, if I put my kids in school, they go try to bully them because they ain't got what they have. They don't have the Versace, the Louis, and I'm not buying them that, because that's just, to me, that's just stupid. But yeah, so that was another thing that just would play in my head, like the pressure of New York City and just having to live up to this certain standard. Then I just started to seek God. Like, I'm like, God, please, like, let me know what it is that you want me to do, because I clearly don't have it figured out, and I don't know where I'm going in life. Like, I want to move. Like, I really want to start fresh. I want to start somewhere new. And like I said, once again, those feelings, that irritation was it did not come out of nowhere. It was definitely something that God placed on my spirit. A video had popped up on my explore page on YouTube, and I just decided to click on it, and it was a lady giving her testimony on how she moved to Texas. Well, how God told her to move to Texas. And I was like really like intrigued by her testimony, and I really didn't pay it no mind, because I didn't think that God was telling me to move to Texas. Even though I had that irritation in my spirit, I didn't think that he was telling me to move to Texas. So I just kind of brushed that off and left it as that. But once that irritation started to get like really heavy, I said, okay, let me pray about this. Let me ask God what he want me to do. So when I prayed, I just said, Father, listen, I can't live in New York no more. I really want to move somewhere, but I want it to be where you want me to go. And once I said that prayer, the next day, the floodgates was open. When I mean open, open. That next day, me and my mother and the kids, we went on a drive to Brownsville to get us some food, y'all. So me and the kids, we were sitting in the car, y'all. And this guy, he walks past, and he was on the phone, but all I heard him say was Texas. And so I'm sitting here like, am I tripping? Am I tripping? Because I know he didn't just say that. Like, and that's, I swear to y'all, that's all I heard him say was Texas. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm tripping. Maybe I'm bugging. So that night when we got back home, I put the kids to bed. I sat up on the bed and I just said, God, okay, I'm not sure if I heard what I heard correctly, because mind you, remember I just got finished watching that video, and then the guy, you know, he said Texas. So now I'm like, okay, maybe you are trying to lean me in a direction of moving to Texas. So that night, y'all, I went home, put the kids to bed, and I went straight into prayer, and I asked God again. I'm like, okay, God, I need you to confirm this again for me. I need you to make it very clear that you're telling me to move to Texas, because I know I heard that man on the phone say Texas. I know I'm not bugging. So once I said that prayer and I said, I need clear confirmation, we went out the next day, y'all. The next day, back to the same neighborhood, but we was just on like a different street. This time we were getting Chinese food, because the first time we had parked to go stop at Dollar Tree. But this time we went to go get some lunch, which was some Chinese food. If you know anything about Lucky Stars, y'all, you from New York City, you know about Lucky Stars, you know that they got good food. So me, my mom, and the kids, we went there, and I talk with my hands a lot. I kind of feel like my brain functions and flows right when my hands are moving, but let me try to keep my hands down, because yeah. But anyways, we went to the Chinese restaurant, y'all, and me and the kids, we were sitting in the car. My mother went in to get the food. So we're sitting in the car. This black car parks right on the side of my mother's car, like double parks right on the side of her car. And there was 3 people in the car. There was 2 adults in the front, and there was a little boy in the back. So, you know, I wasn't really trying to look too much into the car, because I didn't want to look like a creep or anything, but something just kept my eyes, well, not something, God kept my eyes on the car, because the little boy was watching me play with Zori, because I ended up taking her out the car seat. So he was looking in the car and he was smiling, so I just was smiling back at him, and that's what kind of like kept my attention on the car. So I took my attention off the car now, y'all. I took my attention off of the car, because, you know, I'm like, I'm not gonna keep looking in this car. But when I took my attention off the car was like about to drive off, and when it drove off, it made this loud noise to where I had to look up again. So I looked up, and as I'm looking up, the car is like about to do a U-turn. And as it's about to do this U-turn, y'all, that's what the license plate said. It said Texas on it. Texas. And mind you, we in New York City, we don't really see too many Texas license plates. Like, you don't see that too much in New York. You might see a Virginia, you might see a Maryland, but you're not gonna really get a Texas license plate. So I knew that was clear confirmation that God was telling me, yes, I am telling you that you need to move to Texas. So when I went home that night, when we got home, I said, okay, God, I hear you. You're trying to tell me to move to Texas. You're telling me to move to Texas. I get it. I hear you loud and clear. So then that night, I'm on YouTube, because I love to scroll on YouTube. I love watching YouTube videos. I'm on YouTube, and I really watch nothing but faith-based content. So I came across this other girl's video that was in my recommendations, and it was like, God told me to move to Texas. So I watched her testimony, and I felt like her testimony kind of related to me. She was like around my age. She lived on the East Coast just like me. So I felt really connected to her testimony. And then, y'all, he confirmed to me through scripture, which is Exodus 3 verses 12. I'm going to leave the scripture right here on the screen for you guys to see, because, y'all, when I tell y'all, I was like, wow. Like, okay, you are so serious. And that's why I am telling my testimony now, because it was clear instructions from God himself saying, I need you to go and tell my people. I need you to tell my people what I'm doing in your life. So there's that. So once he gave me the scripture, I was like, okay. I see what you're trying to do. I see what you're trying to do. You telling me to move, 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 move. And I don't know how I'm about to do that, but we about to do it because you told me. I'm like, okay, you want me to move now, God. You want me to move, Father. How am I going? I don't have no income. I haven't worked in almost 4 years. Like, nobody is going to accept me for an apartment. Once I said, God, nobody's going to approve me for an apartment. What are we going to do? Like, I don't have no income. I'm not going to be able to get approved for an apartment. So what are we going to do? What is the steps that I need to take? So I eventually ended up going on a 3-day fast, y'all. And on this fast, God started to reveal to me what he wanted me to do. So I kid y'all not, he told me, like, you're going to go into the shelter. And I'm like, okay, wait. That don't sound like everybody else's testimony. They ain't have to go into no shelter. They just got a job. They had to show them 3 pay stubs. And they was in the door. You telling me to go to the shelter? So, okay. I'm like, all right. I'm going to go in the shelter. Now, mind you, at this time, I didn't even have all of the proper information. Like, I was missing my social security card. So I'm like, okay, now I gotta go get all the proper information, because if you are familiar with the shelter, you have to have your social security, you have to have ID, you have to have birth certificates, you have to, be able to prove your identity and stuff like that. And if you have kids, you gotta make sure that you have the proper information for them as well. So I'm like, okay, now I have to take the proper steps in order for me to get the correct information that I need in order to go to the shelter. So as I'm on this fast, y'all, he told me to go into the closet. Kid you no lie. So I go into the closet and I'm like, what am I looking for in this closet? He said, keep looking, keep looking, keep looking. So I'm digging through the pockets because I'm in a coat closet where all my coats are. So I'm digging through my coats, y'all. I'm digging through the pockets of my coats. Kid you no lie, I found my social security card in my pocket. I was blown away. When I tell you, I'm like, oh. Okay, you're serious. All right, noted. I found the social security card, y'all. So now it's time to move. It's time to move. So it was the weekend and I'm like, okay, Monday, I'm gonna go into the shelter. So I like prepared myself. I'm preparing myself and I'm preparing myself. So I went to sleep that night, y'all, and I went through a spiritual attack. It was just like this. I know y'all seen the movie where that ghost looking figure, I don't know what it's called. I forgot what movie that was, but you know that little girl that came out of the TV and she had the like white on and her hair was in front of her face. Y'all, that's what I seen. I seen it like floating in the air, and then it was like somebody laying on the side of the bed next to me, and I was trying to tap them, but it was literally nobody there, y'all. So I went through that spiritual attack right after I like found my social security, and God revealed to me that like that was the spirit of fear leaving you. You're about to walk into what I'm telling you to do, and fear is now leaving you. So I was just super excited because I was delivered from something once again, because I've always been somebody that's been very cautious about every step I took in life. And sometimes I would be double-minded and not be able to make a decision because of my double mind. And like God was like really showing me like, I'm delivering you, my daughter, from certain things that you have been struggling with all your life. You're free. And once I knew that and I realized that, okay, I said, okay, I'm going forward. We're doing this. If this is what you're telling me to do, I'm going to do this. Hold on, y'all. Let me see if I'm still recording. Okay, it's still recording. Yes, it's still recording. So I ended up going to my aunt's house that Sunday. That Monday, we were on our way to the shelter. And when I tell you that process was so brutal, like we were in there from 3 in the afternoon all the way until 1 o'clock in the morning, I believe. Like it's a long, brutal process, and especially if you have kids. Kids are, they don't want to sit down for too long. They want to jump. They want to do this. They want to eat that. So it was just a lot. Like that was like so draining on me. But we ended up getting placed in a shelter. It was cool. I ended up meeting a nice girl who is now like a sister to me. But that was one of the things I even prayed for before going to the shelter. I asked God, like I said, okay, if you want me to go to the shelter, you're gonna have to provide me with some Wi-Fi, because at this time I believe my phone was off. My kid's father turned my phone off, so I didn't have no phone, y'all. So I'm like, okay, God, you gotta send me somewhere where I could get a little Wi-Fi. My storage just went out on me, so let's try to like wrap this up. I prayed for good company, and God blessed me with my sister. I had to really like press into God. I really had to seek him, and I had nobody to lean on. Like I had to do everything by myself with my kids and stuff like that. And it was really just teaching me like a valuable lesson of what was to come. Like God was preparing me to be out here by myself and doing everything by myself, which is like, you know, crazy, but I'm here and I'm doing it. So yeah, I definitely want to get into a little bit of my journey in the shelter. We were there for about 8 months, y'all, and kid you no lie, he would definitely like continue to confirm that Texas is where he wanted me to go. So once we left PATH, we had to get on this yellow school bus. And when we got on the school bus, it would basically drive us to the shelter that we would be staying at. And on our way to the shelter, there was this big Texas sign. It was this Texas chicken spot. But like everything was screaming Texas. Everything was screaming Texas. It was like God was like telling me like, yeah, this is the path that I'm taking you down. Yeah, you're gonna go here first, but keep in mind your eyes is on Texas. Keep your mind on Texas. This is what you're here for. You're here to go to Texas. So that was another confirmation. It was like supernatural confirmations that kept happening. So that happened, and then one day me and the kids ended up going to the park. And this little girl had a shirt on that said Texas. And I was like, wow, okay. And then another day, me and the kids, we ended up going to my mother's house because we wanted some food. And the shelter, you know, wasn't no stoves in the shelter that I was in. So we ended up going to my mom's house. We ended up eating dinner over there, and then we came home. And when we came home, we were coming up to the train station stairs, y'all. And kid you no lie, it was these guys standing there. And I don't know why they were standing there, but it was like once me and the kids like got up the stairs, they turned their backs to walk away. And one of the guys' shirts said Texas on it, y'all, Texas. And I'm just like, okay, God, you're just dropping supernatural confirmations at this point. I get it. You want me to move to Texas. I know that that's the plans. And those type of supernatural confirmations would come when I would doubt that God was telling me to move to Texas. So he just kept dropping it. And I'm just like, okay. I hear you, and I understand. That is what you want me to do. I'm not gonna doubt anymore. This is what we're doing. So yeah. So we ended up staying in the shelter for about 8 months. And I would have to say it was like the most uncomfortablest thing that I've done thus far. But that was the time for me to really like press into the spirit, press in and have a clear mind on what it is that I'm called to do, my purpose, everything. God just started to reveal everything to me and why I'm supposed to be in Texas. So I was like, okay, all right. And during this time, I would like journal and do everything that I needed to do to stay close to God at this time, because I'm like, I can't do this by myself. I'm here because God brought me here, and he's gonna bring me out of here. So I just made sure that I was just seeking God in every which way, even through all the spiritual warfare that I was going through in that time, because it was a lot of spiritual warfare, fusion, all types of stuff. So I would have to say during the last 2 months, that spiritual warfare was heightened. You want to go and watch that journey, go back and watch my old videos. It was just a lot going on. There was like mice infestation, roach infestation, and I would have to say the last week of me being in the shelter, there was this one mouse, in my room, and it was just having a good time to the point where I could not sleep because the rooms were so small. So it's like that thing could jump on me. That mouse could jump on the bed at any given point. And I'm like, no, can't do it. No. So at this time, God was like really pressing in for me to be praying and seeking him. So I'm like, okay, God, what are you going to do? Because these mice, they micing in here, and I can't do this anymore. Like, you need to do something. Like, I literally woke up 4 o'clock in the morning and said, God, you need to do something now. So he did something, and yeah, from there on and out, the rest is history. Like I said, go back and watch the old videos. I'm going to leave it somewhere right here for you guys to go click and watch that video, because that video, it explains everything that happened during my last days of being there. Now, mind you, they ended up moving my room, and we got into that room, and basically all of my bags, all of the stuff I had mouse droppings in it. So I ended up going to my mother's house to like wash some clothes and stuff like that, wash the stuff that had mouse droppings in it and stuff. And I ended up staying at my mother's house for 3 days. Now, they give you this rule in a shelter where you can stay out for 72 hours, but for some reason, they ended up changing that rule to 42 hours. So little old me thinking that, okay, I got 72 hours to stay out. Nope. I violated the curfew. So when I came back, all of my stuff was packed up and ready for me to go. And I wasn't even mad because I knew that was God pressing in. I knew he was pressing in and telling me like, it's time. It's time. It's time. Now, keep in mind, because this is a detail that I did leave out, but he did confirm to me the date that he wanted me to move, which was March 31st, y'all. And I'm going to leave the screenshot somewhere right here showing you when God confirmed to me that he wanted me to move on March 31st. And guess what I did? I moved into this place on March 31st, y'all. March 31st, which is crazy. It's so crazy now even talking about it. He confirmed to me like, okay, March 31st is when I want you to move. So all of that stuff that was taking place was literally in February, like the end of February. The end of February, everything started to just go crazy. God started to up it on me, like making me really uncomfortable during these last 2 months. So I got kicked out of the shelter, I believe February 30th. And I ended up calling them and like, because I'm like, okay, let me see what I can do, because I still got like 30 more days to go until I'm about to get out of here. So I'm like, okay, I called the PATH because that's what the RAs told me to do. They told me I have to call PATH and let them know my situation. And so I called PATH. They told me that I would have to reapply, I have to come back to PATH, and I have to reapply and do all that over again in order for me to stay back in the shelter that I was in. So I'm like, okay. I ended up going to my aunt's house that night, stayed at my aunt's house, got up that very morning and went to PATH for them to tell me that in the system, it says that I left on February 17th or something like that. They basically said in the system that I left for 3 weeks, y'all. So I'm like, okay, all right. So I got so pissed off. I ain't gonna lie. I jetted out of there because I'm like, all this confusion that's going on right now, I can't take it. So I left and I went back to my aunt's house and I told her, listen, let me stay here for a month. And she allowed me to stay there for a month. And I told her, like, let me just get myself situated. Let me figure out what I need to do. So during this time, I started to fast. I started to pray. I'm like, God, what is it? Because time is ticking. The 31st is around the corner. What are we doing? Because I still ain't got no job.